We're here today with my good friend Warren May. Warren May has been a builder of Kentucky's state instrument. Do you know what that is? We're going to find out today. Mr. May, we are so glad that you welcomed us to your shop today. Here we're right outside of Berea. Mr. May has had a shop in Berea for how many years?
43.
43. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, well, certainly welcome. This is my home workshop, and because I'm working out here almost every day, still making my instruments.
Yes, and you did close your shop, your storefront, not long ago.
Yes, that closed out at the end of December, fortunately, and we were able to just transition into our home workshop here.
We're so glad that you've invited us to come.
Well, you're welcome.
Would you like to show us your shop?
Sure, come right on in.
All right, let's go, friends. I'll let you do it. How's that sound?
Hi, I'm Warren May. This is my workshop out on Peggy Flats Road here in southern Madison County, just outside of Berea. And I've been making dulcimers since 1972, so we're coming up to 48, 49 years, almost half a century. But I make dulcimers nearly every day. This is a finished hour drop. This particular one sounds a little more like a guitar. And in contrast to that, a little more bassy sound. This is the most authentic mountainy sound. It's poplar. And some of this wood is well over 100 years old. And some of the wood I use is quite old, at least that old, some of it. And notice it has a little more of a mountainy, ringy sound. More mellow. Love everybody, it's good enough for me. There you go.
Awesome.
Alrighty, here we are at the very beginning of the dulcimer. These are dulcimer shapes that we've cut out of larger boards. And some of this wood is, like I said, very old. Here's a walnut tree that came from Walnut Meadow Road. Now this is just actually a smaller board of the actual boards that came from the tree. But notice I have marked out the knot holes here. Well, instead of throwing the knot holes away, I actually used the knot holes, and I'll show you those later. So I'm planning on taking my patterns and putting them in the right place to actually use the knot hole. So I will actually cut out the dulcimer shape for the top like that, and notice that we've kept the knot hole where the sound hole will be. So this board will make several different dulcimers. So this is walnut. It'll be a real mellow sound. And here's an awesome piece of cherry. You can tell how big the tree would have been when it was standing up. This particular tree will probably be more of a tabletop than it will be a dulcimer, but I do have a knot hole I'm going to consider here for an instrument. So, but like I said, these boards will make several instruments. I'll have to work the wood up several years in advance. And even when I cut out the parts and pieces, these have to be worked up at least several weeks in advance. All right, once we've taken our patterns and sliced the wood into thin pieces, like this top is 2 matched pieces. And here we've actually added the fretboard. Now the fretboard is like the notes on a piano. It has like a do, re, mi scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, but definitely the very easiest instrument. We'll talk about that as we get along. And so here we're actually putting the notes into the little slots on the fretboard. So each fret, very much like a guitar fret, will be an individual note. And notice I've made a real nice big heavy timbre here. So this is probably the most important detail. And while it looks pretty easy, it's pretty fussy. That's why they call it fretting. And so each one of these will be your notes as you go along. And eventually we'll have like 16 or 17 frets and over 20 notes, but still, like I said, your very, very easiest instrument to play. Now this will be added on to our two top pieces. And then the next step would be starting working on the back. And here we've added two pieces together. Notice I've numbered them. And we've glued two pieces that we have sawn on our big bandsaw, which we'll look at in a minute. And so this will be the back for this instrument. This is tulip poplar. Like I said, some of this wood is well over 100 years old. Here we have a back blank. And notice we've cut this out of a larger board. Now this will be big enough to make the back of a poplar dulcimer, but we can resaw this or slice it into small pieces. And then, of course, glue the two pieces together. That makes it prettier and more symmetrical. But this is a bandsaw, and some of the machines are quite dangerous. This is quite fussy machine, but we'll resaw this into a couple of slices and show you how that works. Book matching, where you would open the pieces like a book, and now you see that we have the two slices that would make a dulcimer back. All right, here are the two pieces we've sawn. These are actually very, very fancy pieces of cherry. Note the little stripe here in the back, and that'll be real pretty on the finished instrument. But this is an old Spanish guitar method of joining the dulcimer pieces. And so I tape the good side. Yeah. So this will be the best side. Turn it over. Use something as simple as finishing nails. Some of my tools are very, very simple, but these are things we've learned to do over the years. And yeah, I think I've got a finished back. So using just the real little nails, so we'll have a little give when we get ready to glue it. But this will put tremendous pressure gluing the two pieces together. So I would add the glue here, down through here like that. Add a little reinforcement strip. Okay, one of those top pieces. I had a piece, I thought, one of those top boards right in the window.
This one or these two?
Yeah, just the one of them.
Just the one? Okay.
Thought I had them laid out.
Who taught you how to do this, Warren?
A lot of it is just having to learn to do it by myself. So here's called a call block, which will clamp it down there evenly. Learn to use extra little details. This is a parallel clamp, one of your really old wooden clamps. So I squeeze down, and that glues it together pretty amazingly well every time. The tape protects it, and I go bang, bang. And then scrape the glue off, and you'll end up with this beautiful back piece like this when it's all finished. And we'll go from there. This is the part of the dulcimer that takes probably the longest, and of course it is very important. It's the scroll, and consequently we have the tuning pegs here, very much like violin pegs or guitar pegs. But this all has to be precisely engineered. But now I'm just sanding it to shape. Notice that it's still square and everything. Eventually we'll get it to a nice soft shape and ready to carve the little scroll work here. So there is quite a bit of hand work, hand carving, and machine work too. So here we go. So now we have a scroll that's ready to hand carve. Sometimes I'll use just a simple pattern to do my line marking. And just keep it as simple as possible. And there we go. And here we have probably my favorite tool, or the one I use the most of the time. Now sometimes I'll tape up my hands to hands and finger and thumb just so I can carve more quickly. See, I'm working right on the edge of the scroll there. I'll do everything I can to be as careful as possible and eventually make a real pretty decorative carved scroll to go on each one of my instruments. And this part takes about 10 to 15 minutes plus the sanding, and then we're almost ready to start assembling the instrument. We did the fretboard, we did the scroll tailpiece, did the back, the sides. We'll bend those out of the real thin pieces that we've sliced on the bandsaw. Let me get into this now. And so beyond this, there'll be some hand sanding, which is always a part of it. And you'll see this on the finished instrument, how pretty everything will be once we get it all pretty and softened up. Here we go. We're getting ready to saw the sound hole, because you have to have some kind of hole. This is a classic F on a real popular walnut dulcimer like that one. And here you can see we've marked out a hummingbird pattern, and I've drilled a starting hole, and that's so you can insert the blade here. And this is a scroll saw, or commonly named jigsaw, and originally this is how jigsaw puzzles were made. They were actually sawn out one piece at a time. Fairly safe saw. There you go. With a little hand sanding and a little hand carving on the wings, it'll be a real pretty sound hole.
And he's going to tell you about the beginnings of the dulcimer and how the dulcimer became Kentucky's state instrument and how people from all around the world now know about the Kentucky dulcimer.
Yeah, these are very traditional dulcimers. I'm one of the last artists that actually makes what's called Kentucky style, even use the most authentic traditional wood like Kentucky tulip poplar, which is our state tree. And by the way, the dulcimer is our state instrument because it was popularized here in Kentucky and probably came over from Germany around 1700. The word dulcimer actually means sweet music, or sweet mirth, sweet music, dulce, sweet. But they didn't have any instruments in the mountains. Most of the songs and stories were told just with voice, a cappella. But once the dulcimer came along, and it could be made out of any kind of regional wood, any kind of thin wood, even boards, and with nails or wire for fretting. And so now you had an instrument that was good to accompany your voice and make the songs much more interesting. Like you could do horse gallops if you were doing a spooky horse song. You could use it to give a little melodrama to your folk songs. She lived down by the old graveyard. Ooh, ooh, ooh. So you can tell how it would make the stories and songs much more interesting to have musical accompaniment. Generally the dulcimer was just solo and people would sing the song because the words and the story of the song were the most important. But to add a lot of detail like that was just terrific. So over the years we played the dulcimer. It wasn't very popular as guitars and other instruments and radio and recordings came along. It was a very, very quiet, not so strong of a performing instrument. So it was sort of put away until about 1960s or so with the folk music. And of course, a lot of the folk music you were just playing with guitar and non-electrified instruments. And so we gradually made the dulcimer better and easier to play and more versatile. Several pretty famous musicians. Cyndi Lauper is a very, very strong contemporary folk singer. Kenny Rogers used the dulcimer in some of his instruments. Of course, Gene Ritchie, John Jacob Niles, the original Kentucky folk singers, were best known for their dulcimer performances. So I just enjoy making them. Each one's different. You can play just wonderful music by yourself or with other people helping. This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, to the redwood forest, to the Gulf Stream water. Oh, this land was made for you and me. One more time. This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream water. Oh, this land was made for you and me. We did it.
Thank you, Warren.
You're welcome. So, dulcimers have come a long way. I started in 1972 making my first instrument. I was teaching woodworking, which industrial arts or technology today. But I made a dulcimer, spent about 2 weeks on it, and had been trying to play a guitar, but I soon found the dulcimer was much easier to play. In fact, you really just play one string, like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The two other strings make a complete chord every time. So you can either play by numbers or you can play by note scale, like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Got that peace and joy and love and happy down in my heart, down in my heart, oh, down in my heart. Down in my heart to stay. So you very quickly pick out the melody. So anyway, that's the ease of playing. Now the good part is we've improved the dulcimer, made it play more easily, but much more wider range of music. I can play guitar chords. We'll go down on the corner, out in the street. Willie and the poor boys are playing, bring your nickels at your feet. I can play with other instruments like a guitar, another dulcimer. I've played with organs and pianos. Just like a tree that's planted by the water, we shall not be moved. And you'll have Kentucky songs. Gene Ritchie was a very famous folk music performer from actually Viper, Kentucky, which is Perry County down by Hazard. But Gene was able to go to the University of Kentucky and sing herself all the way to Greenwich Village in New York with some of the most famous of the folk singers, Pete Seeger, Peter, Paul and Mary, Bob Dylan, and anyway, actually took the dulcimer out to the world, all the way from Kentucky to New York, and now it's become one of the most popular folk instruments because it's so easy to play. And another Kentucky artist would be John Jacob Niles, who traveled all over collecting original mountain folk songs. He was from Louisville. And Homer Ledford, the famous Kentucky maker of dulcimers. He made many thousands of dulcimers from Winchester, Kentucky. His years of experience inspired me. Again, I started in 1972, have made almost 19,000 dulcimers over the past 48 years or so. So I really do work on dulcimers every day. So Tom T. Hall from down to Olive Hill, Eastern Kentucky, wrote a pretty famous song called Sneaky Snake. And goes like this. Now, boys and girls, take warning when you go near the lake. Keep your eyes wide open and watch for Sneaky Snake. He does not have any arms or legs, and you cannot see or hear. And when you are not looking, he'll drink up your root beer. And then Sneaky Snake goes dancing, wiggling and a hissing. Sneaky Snake goes dancing, giggling and a kissing. Well, I don't like old Sneaky Snake, he just makes me sick. 'Cause when he is not dancing, he looks just like a stick.
Thank you, Warren. We are so blessed to be able to come out to your shop. This has been an honor for me to come. I really just want to thank you from our kids at Shannon Johnson, and I know they're going to love this video and learn all kinds of neat things about Kentucky's state instrument, the dulcimer. Thank you, Warren May.
You're certainly welcome.